So squirrel, welcome to my squirreling. So back into this topic, the U.S. actually takes drastically less vacations. They have a horrible work-life balance. I mean, I I actually noticed that China actually has more vacation time and time off for their people than we do here in the US. And the US is constantly bashing them for not having, for not treating people well. And I'm like, well, gosh, they have more vacation time than we do. I don't know about that, right? And so when we talk about being a heart-centered person and also, our soul's purpose, and how does that express and how do we understand who we are and what we're to do, if we're being worked and worked and worked and worked and worked without a break, we can't breathe, we're never going to have a chance to understand who we are, right? To understand our soul's purpose. And the human body energy system is related and intertwined spiritually and physically, right? And so, we have these different levels of composition and structure, and we look at the body usually on this physical form, you know, because the energetic or spiritual form, most of us cannot see with our own eyes, right? We're like, a lot of people are like, I can't see an aura. I can't see my soul purpose. I can't see my energy. But, I'm going to teach you guys how to do that today, how to find out what your soul purpose is, how to know what your energy is, even without these skills, right? And it's going to be an awesome thing, I think, I hope, right? And so we think about the physical body and we feed the physical body food. We drink water as a way to sustain it, right? But what are we doing to sustain and balance our energy? The spiritual body, right? Are we grounding? Are we spending time in our religious or spiritual practices, worshiping, meditating, doing those things, right? Or are we just running around working all the time, never taking a break, never taking a moment to pray, to meditate, to do the things that we need to nourish and strengthen and support that spiritual energy, right? And so, we're taking care of the body on a food and mitochondria level, but we're not maybe taking care of it on an emotional or spiritual level. And I think that is why we see so much more instance, like in the US, of, people struggling with weight gain and with heart attacks, eating very similar foods that they do in Europe, right? And that is because the emotional, spiritual needs are not being met. They're not being balanced. They are not being cared for. And so this is also why we see a lot of people in the US having to resort to extreme dieting and extreme, they call it orthorexia, where you have to go to extremes for a healthy body, right? Because we're just in such a high stress area and a high stress thing. And I actually watched a TikTok recently of a woman who was like, hey, I help people who are immigrating from Europe over here in the US. And one of the things that she noticed as a consistent pattern was within 3 to 4 months, the people coming from these countries would start to uncontrollably gain weight. And she goes, and before you ask, no, they're not eating junk food. They're not eating prepackaged food. They're not going to restaurants. They don't have budgets for that. They are, eating what they ate in Europe. They're really not changing their diets, and I'm like, I can't help but think a lot of this has to do with the energetics and the stress hormones that we deal with here in the US, because they're taken from cultures that, have good connections, family connections. They have good work-life balances. They rest, they celebrate, they have what is called third spaces to go in and to have that. And we're severely lacking those things here. So, this is a big soapbox for me. So I kind of get on these things. So, we always look at this tangible and we miss the spiritual. And the spiritual is that framework for the body, right? And so in becoming a heart-centered person, the heart, like we just talked about, is the container for the soul, for the higher self. If we are closing off and protecting our heart, we are literally blocking the expression of who we are, right? And so, I actually remember doing this myself. Like, I would get so upset at, like, an ex-partner or something. I'm like, I'm never going to love again. I'm never going to share my heart with anybody. I'm going to protect my heart. You protect your heart, but you're also closing off the expression of who you are. We shut down being ourselves. Someone judges us, someone yells at us, someone screams at us for being who we are. Someone says, oh, you're weird. Oh, you're too fat for this. You're too skinny for that. Don't be yourself. Conform, and that is another thing, we're really put into this thing of where we need to conform and to be like everyone else. And we start closing off little bits and pieces of us. Thank you guys for the hearts. And as we close off the bits and pieces of us, we stop being a heart-centered person. We stop being heart-centered humans. And we start becoming self-centered. Self-centered. To get that word? We focus on self. I must protect myself. I must not share myself. I must not be myself. And then we run around going, I don't know who I am. I don't know where my purpose is. Well, no shit. You don't know. Because you shut it off. And sometimes it's not even our fault. Sometimes it's because we had a horrible childhood. We had abusive parents. We had all of these things. So sometimes it's not our fault. Sometimes we had to close off our heart to protect ourselves. We had no choice, right? I don't know anybody else who's there can commiserate with me, but like I had a pretty rough upbringing. And as an autistic female, the doctor said, oh, she functions normally, don't worry about her. But my whole life people are like, you're weird. You never get my jokes. Oh, you're always saying the wrong thing. And so I actually calling us out, right? Calling myself out too. We put on this mask of acquiescence and we say, oh, I'll be just like you. I'll put my mask on. And then we're no longer heart-centered. And if we're no longer heart-centered, then we become lost and we don't know what we're doing. And so I don't know if you guys are seeing the pattern here of how we close our heart, how we pretend to be like everyone else. And then all of a sudden we're not ourselves. And I've noticed this pattern with humans. Like I go to Costco. I know Costco's a lot of energy, but I have to have a lot of kids. And it's like everybody is wearing black and gray and dark blue and like very muted colors. And I'm like this sunshiny ball of tie-dye wandering through this abyss. But I realized, like, even with furniture and houses, like everything is just muted because everyone's just trying to fit in, right? They're just trying to be like everyone else. They don't want to express who they are on a heart level. And so they just become plain, ordinary, where they just blend in and they lose themselves, right? And, the energetic body suffers because of this. When we talk about the energetic body, modern science, in fact, I'm going to link on the YouTube recording of this, a study for you guys that I found, I can't remember where, like Science Today or something like this, but they studied the human body and they found that by biomedicine and modern science, they focus on the tangible, but they also started to look at the interconnection between the intangible and the tangible. And they found that the energy system, which is intangible, interacts with the physical. And that the body is simultaneously constantly recorrecting and linking to this energy system. And all material and structural components, and I'm going to read this quote, all material and structural components of the body have their corresponding energetic components. Material components move owing the action of energetic components and the form and the functions and the life activities of the human body. Although the existence of the material system in the human body has been confirmed by biomedicine and modern science, the existence of the energy system has yet to be demonstrated until the writing of this paper. And so this is like this whole really cool paper and hypothesis on the energetic meridian system, which I find fascinating. So the science is starting to look at this. And it's fascinating to me because Aristotle lived quite a while ago. And they may have not had the same scientific tools as us, but he discovered this. Chinese medicine has known these things for thousands and thousands of years. So there are proofs and evidences, pardon me, guys. And we miss them and forget them because it's like, oh, this isn't modern science. Oh, this hasn't been proved. No, it's been proved over and over and again by millennium, right? And so we have philosophers like Aristotle that pondered this essence, right? That looked at different traditions and can I say the word existentialism, maybe? And it underscores this debate of the essence as a person and a creation, right? Versus an intrinsic and interchangeable nature, right? And so the scientists are finally kind of bringing that spiritual and the physical together and looking at things through a spiritual lens, this physical body that shows that the spiritual and religious traditions, they're like, there's some sort of transcendental force here. Maybe they were right. Maybe the Taoism was right. Maybe Chinese medicine actually is accurate. And, this human essence and energy and heart-centeredness that we have influences our identity and our self-discovery and our relationships and cultural and social whatever dynamics, right? And it's a fundamental part of our self-understanding and the connections with others and the shared community, right? And so we think about this, where we're protecting our hearts and we're lost in self and we become a self-centered and a self-focused person. And so when we think about becoming a heart-centered person, the heart-centered person will say, maybe I was broken, maybe I was hurt, but I am going to open my heart. I am going to open myself. I am going to allow myself to freely express and share my energy and who I am, right? And as we openly express that energy, life changes. And I really do think that because we are not people of the heart anymore, that we are people of the self, this is where a lot of the problems have come. I just heard yesterday that they were bombing Israel. And I will tell you, for me, I don't care what side you are on, harming innocent people is never okay. I don't think wars are ever okay. I don't care what side there is. There's nothing redeeming. But this is a great example of not being a heart-centered person, of not being an empathetic person, of being someone that is focused on self versus others. And so as heart-centered people, we become a community that cares about others more than self. And when we care about others more than self, we forgive. We are kinder. We are more giving. People don't suffer. We don't have as much homelessness and sadness. And it doesn't mean that these things never occur, because there will always be someone that will fall into the pattern of self. But you look at so many things that are going on, like, my son's an alcoholic. That is an illness of the self, focusing on self, right? And so we get into these self patterns, and the self patterns are what creates damage not only to ourselves, our body, our families, but also the world and the society at whole, right? And so there is this dynamic, energetic force that impacts our perceptions, our experiences, and our interactions. And when we think of this essence, right, it can be this enriching enlightenment and understanding. So the next question that I have on my list here is, how do we navigate life with compassion? How do we become heart-centered? How do we do these things so that we are living from the heart, right? And we have a comment here that says, caring is so hard, like never getting a break and always giving and giving and giving. I actually had this same thought yesterday, because I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm like entering my own selfish phase where I'm like, that's it. I am done. Like, I don't want to help people anymore because people take advantage of me. They never reciprocate. Like, I'm helping everybody, but nobody's helping me. And I kind of got in this like murmur self space, right? And so often the classes I teach are because I need to learn these things too. But I was sitting with my daughter, and my daughter just come from out of town. She was visiting, and she was like, "Oh, will you sew me this dress?" I don't know if you guys know, like this like ruchy tube tops, and you can buy like a yard of fabric at Joann, and you can whip up a dress really quick. So, we went and bought that, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna totally make that." But my serger was broken, so I'm like, "Well, I don't have my serger, so I'll have to do a French seam so this doesn't unravel." And so again, sewing terminology, but French seaming an outfit is, it's time consuming. It's more of a couture sewing thing that takes a lot of time. So instead of making a 10-minute dress, it turned into like an hour and a half dress. So I'm sitting here, I just finished it, and I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm going to put my feet up. We've been up running around all day. I'm going to rest. 5 minutes later, we get a knock at the door. And my son went to check through the peephole to see who it was. And he realized, he was like, oh, it's our neighbors. Okay. Now, I'm going to pause here, and you might judge me on this. I'm not fond of my neighbors. Okay. They're kind of the nosy Karen type. Like once we went on vacation, and I had a pet sitter who was coming to my house twice a day for 2 hours at a time to play with my dog, take him on walks, feed him. But our dog is a Velcro dog. We actually don't have this dog anymore, but was a Velcro dog. Like, if you were not in the same room as this dog, it would incessantly just whine because it was a clingy puppy. And so when this, house sitter would leave, the dog would just whine and whine and whine. Well, they called the city on us, said we abandoned our dog while we were on vacation. And I was like, no, did you not see the pet sitter coming twice a day? And so they're like people that do shitty things like that. And so oftentimes we like just ignore them because they're like really not fun people. They're very dramatic people. But intuition was like, you really need to answer the door. And I was like, fine, fuck it. I'm going to answer the door. So I answer the door, and it's this gay couple next door. There's this older guy and this younger guy. And when I say older and younger, one's like 70 and one's like 60. And the younger one was there, and he's like, oh my gosh, my partner fell. He can't get up. He's in the driveway. Can you come help us? And we're like, yep, absolutely. Grabbed my son. We went over and, helped this guy. He'd just kind of fallen. He was old and he couldn't get back up. And so we helped him get back up. And then they're like, well, so our garage door's broken and we can't get into the house. And for some reason, like, they only enter through their garages, and they left their keys at home and they were locked out of their house. And so we had, it was turned into this hour ordeal of basically helping these people that I didn't like very well get back into their house. And, I'm bringing them water bottles, and we're helping them, basically we had to drill out the lock on their door so they could get in their house, because they're kind of lower income. They couldn't afford a locksmith. So we finished, about an hour and a half later, got these people in, and I got home, and it was just like, I was so freaking exhausted. And I was like, sat there and I was like, I have spent the whole day helping other people, and I haven't had a single moment to do anything for myself, even to prep for this class, right? I was like, I'm going to prep for this class, and I'm going to get ready for this class now. Didn't get time for any of that, right? I was just helping others all day for whatever happened. And so, especially if we're healers or helpers, we can often feel that suck and drain. And, I was like, I'm never helping anybody again. And then it's like, well, no, I can't leave my neighbor in the driveway. And they're too old to sit out in the heat. It's 90 degrees out, and that heart-centeredness starts to break and open up. And we had somebody say they'd get their last $5 per person. I've done that too. We have people talking about how do we open up, and this is where we're going to kind of go into this. How do we open up? How do we become more heart-centered? Well, for one, we talk about this a lot. Your boundaries are your protection. And so we have to look at situations as, do they need my help or they want my help, right? And so in this instance, I immediately evaluated the situation. I'm like, this is a need. This is not a want. This isn't neighbor coming over to just chat about the weather and the other neighbors. Like, they legit needed help, and I was the person to help them. And so, there was like no question in my mind. Of course, we're going to go help you. Right? But sometimes it's a want, right? It's, and I get wants often from like my children, especially like my oldest son. He's always asking me for money, and I'm like, I'm not giving you money, right? That's a want, not a need. You can make your own, way, right? So we evaluate the situation as a want and a need. And then we also have to look at like, what are my boundaries and how long am I going to help? How much am I going to help? Things like that, right? And someone is saying like they feel very depleted and defeated. So here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. And this is how we become a heart-centered person, is that, and this doesn't matter what your religious, spiritual practices are, okay? Whatever they are, we're going to start our morning with a prayer, a meditation, a journal prompt, whatever your practices are. Spirit, help me to get the most important things done today. Thank you. And then whatever happens during the day, that's the most important thing. So my whole goal and my mindset for yesterday was like, I'm going to get my kitchen sparkling clean. I'm going to get all my laundry done. I'm going to bake some bread. I'm going to be like so productive and awesome. And Spirit was like, no, actually, your daughter needs to spend time with you. And your neighbor's going to need help from you. And then you're going to have to cook dinner. And then you're going to be too tired to do much else. So you're just going to soak in the bathtub. And that's pretty much what I did. Although I am writing a fiction book right now, because here's just a side note. If you are feeling creatively blocked, and this goes in with the heart-centeredness, so because your heart-centered is the expression of who you are. If you are feeling a creative block or blocked in life, do something that is purely fun, purely creative, whatever, like roller skating, basketball, for me, it's writing a book, painting a picture, whatever it is, it will help you get unstuck. And so I'm writing this book. It's kind of like a female version of Percy Jackson mixed with modern interpretations of Greek mythology. It's pretty cool. I love it. And like, I wrote some of that yesterday, but I was like, okay, I had a little bit of time for me, and I made space for me. And that's the other thing, is you have to make space for you, right? And I got to the point where I was just like, I was so tired at the end of the day. I was like, I can't do anymore. My husband didn't go home till midnight, and usually I'll try to stay up and like give him a kiss and give him his dinner and say hello. But I called and I was like, honey, I can't. Your food's in the fridge. I love you. Good night. Right? And so I had to put a boundary on that and be like, you know what? As much as I would love to be here and actually warm your food and hear about your day, I can't. And so instead of that, I'm going to leave your food and go to bed. Right? And so I had to make that boundary. And that's an important thing. Your boundaries are your protection. So when we say living from the heart, these are the ways that are going to open you up to being more heart-centered. And in the process of being heart-centered, you are also getting closer to walking the path of your soul purpose. Okay? Making heart-based decisions, enriching your day with deep fulfillment. And so yesterday I didn't get done what I wanted to do, but I was deeply fulfilled by what I was doing. Right? So living from the heart means our mind is accepting and expanding the energy and the wisdom in the heart. Okay? You don't try to understand with your head what's going on, but you just relate and connect, and you use that intuition, and you find through that intuition and experiences what you are called to do. And so developing your intuition, your own personal discernment, is a very, very important thing. If you don't know how to do that, there's a free class on my website. All you go is you go to the website. It says Watch Spirit Fluent. You don't even have to put your email or anything. It's just right there. Watch that. Someone says you feel like you're too old and your purpose is past. I was having similar thoughts yesterday. Now I'm only 45. I don't know how old everybody else is, but I'm like, oh, I'm old. That's done for the year. No, you're never done until your feet, are 6 feet under and you have grass growing out the top of you, right? You're never done. You always have opportunities to learn and grow and fulfill your purpose. And people's soul purpose changes throughout lifetime, right? We're born with purpose in mind, but it shifts as we grow and change as humans, right? My purpose is shifting and growing, right? And like for me, like I'm now getting to the point where I'm like, I'm stopping doing private readings. I'm not doing those anymore, right? I'm not. And that's okay, right? And I'm changing that stuff. And I'm shifting my purpose. My purpose now is more teaching, more writing, more doing in-person events. And that's okay. So we do shift. We have a time and a season, right? So look at your time and your season. When I had 7 little kids running around, I wouldn't have been able to do this work because the kids went in and out. It's loud and you can't sit for an hour and not take care of your kids. And my time in my season was not that of a teacher. My time in the season is different. And our society today, especially in westernized society, diminishes the value of the aged person. The aged person has lived. They are the wisdom keepers, the soul teachers. They know life and they are very important and valuable, right? So don't devalue yourself due to age. On either way, on either side, right? So living from the heart helps us navigate our life with compassion and making heart-based decisions. It means accepting and expanding the energy and the wisdom of the heart, right? A lot of us now are feeling scared and angry and cynical and worried and hopeless and depressed. And this pulls us out of being heart-centered, right? And sometimes we get busy. We do things that keep us busy to mask that heavy heart, to block it. But really the only way to damage or to repair that damage is to pause and slow down and address the brokenness in our heart, to address the protections that we've put up, to help ourselves find ourselves again, right? And I think a lot of us oh, I don't know my purpose. And I remember, and I tell this story often. So those of you that are my OG people, you've probably heard this story 72 times. I have a friend who's a medicine man. He's a Jibbo medicine man. And we were at sacred ceremony with him. And I remember we were done with drum circle and I walked up to him and I just started crying. I was like, the ugly crying with the snot running out your nose. And I was like, Dan, I don't know my purpose. I don't know who I am. Tell me who I am. And Dan is a mischievous fellow. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, He goes, oh, you know your purpose. And I was like, no, I don't. I don't know my purpose. Tell me my purpose. He goes, oh, only you humans don't know your purpose. The tree, when it drops its acorn, knows that the acorn will become another tree. And the puppy, when he is born, he knows he will grow to be a dog, and only the human questions who they are. And the reason that the human questions who they are is because the other humans question who we are, or they shame us for who we are. And it makes us forget. It makes us forget our divine calling. And then our focus becomes on, I am only valuable if I have X number of dollars in my bank account and a house that is X number of square feet big, and I have all these fancy clothes and, toys and whatever. And we find our value from temporary things, from things that fall apart and disintegrate. And, as I was talking about my neighbors, I went over to their house and it was filled from top to bottom with stuff. There wasn't an untouched space, but it was all covered in dust and the things were starting to break and disintegrate. And I was like, wow, they spent a lifetime filling their home with stuff. And I bet when they go and they pass on, most of this stuff is going to be trashed. It's going to fall apart, right? So if you want to release the heaviness, and this is what I do, is that I give. When I feel heavy and sad, I come on here and I start doing lives. I start talking to people. I start donating my time at charitable contributions. In fact, I just signed up my kids and I to go do a soup kitchen thing. We're going to go feed the homeless, right? Because I am feeling down and I'm feeling not myself. And I'm like, well, if I can't help myself, I'm going to go help someone else. But sometimes by helping others, we actually find ourselves. Now keep your boundaries in mind. Don't burn yourself out, because I see this a lot, especially like with people who do animal rescue. I feel out of control, so I'm going to go help rescue all the animals. And then that's all they do. And it becomes this identity, and they lose themselves in this to the point where they can't find themselves again. So there's a big balance. Hello, Shannon. So giving of your time, if you're intentionally not self-involved, can help bring those negative emotions back into control. And so for an immediate shift, focus outwards into helping or sharing someone. And you can even do this with meditation. I'm going to meditate and I'm just going to share some light and energy to the world. You don't even have to go out and do anything. You can just sit there and meditate and be like, I'm sending healing light and energy to everyone in the world. I'm sending peace, right? And so you can do that. It will help melt those feelings away, and it will free up a massive heart space. The next thing I want you guys to do is give up. I know. I like to say shocking things where people are like, what? Give up? I can't give up. But you have to give up. If you've been holding on to your pain and your suffering, some people make pain and suffering part of their identity. And you guys have met these people. I've been this person. Oh, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, my elbow hurts and it's been hurting forever and I had to go see my doctor, and an hour later, you've heard someone's entire medical history. Right? Suffering is not your job. Give it up. Quit. Give it away. Release it to God. Release it to the universe. Let it go. Release it to your favorite tree in the park. I don't care. Give it to something or someone. Scream it out. One of my favorite ways to release is screaming. I know it sounds so like the antithesis of what you should do, but I will literally get in my truck. I will get on the freeway. I've been known to blast some heavy metal in the process. Now, heavy metal is not very energetically kosher, right? The music is a little questionable. Whatever. Hey, I'm in a temporary space, right? So I get out there and I just start screaming, ah, 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 until I feel better. And then I go back home. I recommend screaming that way safely, because if you drive by someone and you're screaming bloody murder, they're going to go, what's that? And then you're gone. If you start screaming bloody murder at home, your neighbors are going to be like, what's going on with this person? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you do, screaming into public, it helps, right? There's better work to be done, and you need a heart space to do it, and you have to make room for it. And the only way to make room for new things is to release the old. If you are holding on to a lot of old junk, old memories, old emotions, old things, right? In the middle of the woods, I love it, right? Heavy metal's like dopamine, I love that too. But think about it this way. If your house and garage is packed from ceiling to floor, are you going to have room for anything new? No. So just as you don't want to be a hoarder in your home, you don't want to be a hoarder of pain and negative emotions and stress. Let that shit go, right? Get present. Worry creates more of that clutter. Be present right now, in the moment, right now. What's going on? We're talking. I know we're not really talking. You guys are more listening to me, but we're here. We're present. Don't worry about your laundry. Don't worry about the kids. Don't worry about the dog barking outside. Be present. Take a deep breath and focus only on breathing for just a few minutes. The best way is just to notice and acknowledge the very moment of time that you were in, right? I know, I feel like we're talking too, so I love it. Find something beautiful, even in something that seems messy. I love the Japanese philosophy of finding beauty in things like fallen leaves and broken pots. There's beauty and mess and chaos that just is so powerful, right? If you look at that and see things from a different perspective. That deep breath in and out will always bring you home. The other thing that I want to talk about is asking for help. Asking for help is very stigmatized in the spiritual world. It is something that we often don't do because we're like, they're going to think I'm crazy. I don't want to take medications. It'll block my spiritual gifts. There is no shame in asking for help. Okay? You don't have to do this alone. You don't need to do this alone. Find your support team. And if your support team is not with your family and your friends and the people at home, find it outside of them. Find people. Okay? Then you need to identify your happiness. What makes your heart happy? Make a list. What did you used to do as a child that you forgot that you loved? I mean, I forgot that I loved to write. I literally won a writing contest in 2nd grade. Like, I loved to write books and stories, but my heart forgot that, right? I forgot who I was. Heart space is a big deal. Thank you. It's how we love deeply and we experience a truly meaningful life. And we need plenty of heart space for that. Oh, thank you, Britt. And at risk of sounding incredibly cliched, life is too fucking short to deal with this. You guys deserve a full, open, happy heart. And with that, you live and walk your purpose in joy and love and gratitude. You deserve to have a full, open heart. Okay? And so when your heart is open, it is expressing the essence of who you are. It is vibrating your energy. And in those vibrations are the vibrational patterns of who you are. Right? And so that vibrational energy, science has quantified that as well. They have shown that the energetic field of a body comes out 6 to 12 feet from most people. I can tell you I've seen it out as far as 400 feet from someone. If you have yellow energy, your aura goes out very far. I'll just tell you that. But when your heart is centered and open, then you can find your purpose and you can unveil your soul colors and you can start to walk your path. And so if you haven't figured out what your aura color is, and remember, these colors can shift and change as well, that there's a video on my playlist on TikTok where it's like how to find your aura color. Use that to kind of help you. I will tell you, if you are like really misaligned, sometimes your aura color is the color that you hate the most. So for me, like I used to hate yellow. And that's one of my soul colors. But I used to hate yellow. I used to hate pink, right? So what would that say about me? I hated who I was on a soul level. And I was also resistant to my spiritual awakening because pink is a spiritual awakening color, right? And so oftentimes I see a lot of people, like I tell them their soul color, like that's my least favorite color. I hate that color. Okay, then we got a lot of soul healing to do. We got a lot of heart opening to do, right? So sometimes it's someone's favorite color, right? Like turquoise, one of my favorite colors. So you can see both. Green, one of my favorite colors, right? So you can see both a light and a dark side of that. So when we talk about soul colors, and I'm going to go through the aura colors really quickly, so that we can get through a lot of this because we still have some more to talk about. And I literally teach aura colors as like a 2-part class in my medical intuitive course. So we're gonna do what we can. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about things like black auras. No one actually has a black aura permanently. Black is a protection. Okay, it's the dark night of the soul. Because I have people coming all the time. Oh, so and so I said I had a black aura. Da, da, da. No, you're protecting your energy, either temporarily or permanently. You're protecting your energy. Okay, so I always, when I see black come through, I'm always like, what's underneath that color? Okay, so black is actually not a desirable color. It can indicate someone has cancer or they're going through a really rough time. So black is a color that I usually get really worried about because it's a dangerous color, because it is, we think about energy, and the spectrum of energy is a vibrational energy of all colors of the rainbow, and it's white and it's beautiful. And if you lack energy, you're lacking the flow of energy in your body. Okay. If someone comes through and they're like, I have a white aura, I'm like, okay, I know who you are. You have the sole purpose of a rainbow, because white is the vibrational energy of all colors combined. So if you think you have a white aura, you've been told you have a white aura, again, go to my site, free videos under What Spirit Fluent, no email needed. Watch the Rainbow Soul Purpose video. That's going to tell you more about you. Okay. White is a very powerful color. It's an all-encompassing healing color. It is very powerful, but it also can be weak. It's a cleansing, it's a purifying, it's a knowledgeable, it's a great color to have on, just say. Red is our warriors of light. These are my spiritual superheroes. They're like, I'm going to save the day. I'm going to help people. I see these with animal rescuers and firefighters and police officers, always seeking new challenges. They also, people with red energy also tend to be well known or famous. I don't see a ton of red energy people because it is very hard to stay balanced in red energy for too long. But they're very caring, passionate people. They have a polarity of growth or destruction. Okay. Orange. So when we think about the color wheel, orange is a combination of red and yellow. So it carries the properties of a warrior of light as well as a creative healer. Bringing them together is this alchemist soul purpose. It's a creative prosperity person. Oftentimes people who are alchemists also tend to be famous or well known. They're very like enthusiastic and talented, creative. They're often people that are in the public eye for their creativity. But they also have a deep inner wisdom and intuition because they have that healer energy with them. I'll see this color often with performers, some musicians or actors or things like that. They're very adventurous people. So they love to be out there, and they're usually they're very motivated by money. It's really interesting. They have the polarity of activity, so they're very active and go, 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 or they can be very lazy if they're not aligned. Yellow, creative healers. These are like, I always call them my Leonardo da Vinci's. They are artistic, science-connected inventors. They're constantly radiating out healing energy. These are actually, and anybody with yellow in their energy fields and auras tend to be a lot bigger. They tend to be more empathetic. They tend to struggle in crowds. They tend to be more sensitive and easily drained. So this is why you will see like I have a celebrity client and they have orange energy, and after they finish a tour, they're drained and they have to take 6 months off to recuperate before they can come back. Right. And so that's why we see this often, right? It's like, they like, I can go, 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 go. And then it's like, and they crash. So they're very warm, light, people. Anyone with yellow in their energy on the medical intuitive side needs to be mindful of their lymphatic system, and their liver, because they tend to not be able to detox things very well. So that's something that's really important for someone with this energy pattern. The polarity of yellow is expanding. I'm expanding in my world. I'm doing things, or I'm contracting and pulling in. The next in the soul purpose colors that we have is the green, the earth healers. These are my shamans, my medicine people. I often see like nurses have this energy color. They're very connected to the earth, the animals. They will either love the outdoors and love animals, or they will totally hate it. But they're very heart-centered. They're also my skeptical people. Like if I'm doing a session for someone with green energy, I instantly know, oh God, this person's going to be skeptical. I have to like give them something that's going to like prove to them instantly that I know my shit. So I'm like, I have to prove myself instantly to green people. Great memory, great stuff, usually connected to circulation. Their polarity is stability. So we think about this big stable tree with strong roots and strong leaf system, or instability, like a tree that's been ripped out by a tornado. So for them, they have to have good boundaries. I typically call these people my giving trees, the overgivers of the world. Also, anybody with yellow in their energy tends to be targeted by narcissists more. So they need to be really careful about the people that they allow in their life, right? The next color we have is the blue wisdom keeper. And they are very caring and understanding. These are the people that just know the answers to questions. Like, someone will come up to them and they'll be like, what is da 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 da? And the person's like, oh, it's XYZ. And sometimes they don't even know they knew the answer, but they just know. They're connected to universal source wisdom and knowledge. They have the answers. My husband is a wisdom keeper, and we call him like the walking encyclopedia. You can literally like point out a mountain and you're like, hey, what's that mountain? And he's going to be like, that's mountain so-and-so, and it's comprised of half limestone and half granite, and da 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 da. Oh no, YouTube can't hear me. We're having YouTube issues. I'm sorry, guys, on YouTube. I don't know how to fix YouTube, but we are recording here on TikTok, so I might have to upload the TikTok thing. So good thing we got kind of that covered. So I'm sorry if you're on YouTube, you might have to switch over to TikTok. So I'm actually really glad that we're doing it on two places. I'm so sorry though. There's always technical stuff during Mercury retrograde. And I always know, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't schedule classes. And then I do. Okay. So polarity of wisdom keepers, knowledge or ignorance. Okay. So these are the people like, I have so much knowledge, and then all of a sudden they're like willfully ignorant, or they don't want to hear things, or they won't change their mind. So for them, it's like, they have to stop worrying about other people's judging them, express themselves, but also being open to learning new things and not thinking they know everything, even though they kind of do know a lot. Next is purple. These are master healers. They are leaders. So these are more like a leader healer, someone who is leading and guiding and teaching others how to do this, right? They are destined to help others heal by teaching that and emanating leadership qualities. So they're always kind of those Zen master people that are like leading people. Although on the polarity side of this, these are my people that can end up to be cult leaders if they're not well grounded and balanced, because they're so charismatic that they end up being cult leaders. And they can just be like, oh yeah, everybody loves me. They want to hear from me. They want me to teach them. They want me to be their leader. Woo. And then, so if anybody is like all purple energy, I start to get really concerned, because I'm like, ooh, this person could go Branch Davidian. So yeah, it can get kind of weird. But purple is this wisdom and knowledge along with healing. So we look at these people as humanitarian. They're good speakers, public speakers, protectors, but they can end up, like I said, being cult leaders or pompous or arrogant because of that, right? So their polarity is peace or conflict. Are we operating in peace, or are we in conflict? So oftentimes we see, political leaders who have purple energy as well, because they're like, I have all-knowing energy and power, phenomenal cosmic power, and then they're like going to war with others, right? So pink, that's a spiritual awakening color, almost always connected with soul purpose of the rainbow. There are certain colors that, like, if I see these colors come through, I'm like, this person might be a rainbow. Pink is one, white is another, yellow is usually another one. Those three ones, I'm like, almost always this person has the soul purpose of a rainbow. And we don't have time to go into that today, so if you want to learn about that, there's a free video on my website. It says Watch Spirit Fluent. You don't have to give me your email or anything, just go watch the class. It's also on my YouTube, you can watch it there, okay? Red We talked about red. We talked about green. So we get all the colors. Pink. We just got through all the colors. Holy shit. Oh, wow. Okay. So we got through those colors. So when we understand the colors, we understand what our purpose is, right? And combining these things, being open and a heart-centered person helps us clarify our soul's mission. It helps us clarify who we are, but also to live accordingly and steering ourselves towards being more heart-centered. And the more heart-centered you are, the more focused on the heart and really expressing who you are, the happier you're going to be, because you're going to be walking on your own path. But also the more successful. If you understand who you are, you can understand how to be successful. And this kind of goes into like a more businessy thing. But one of the things I learned is that you have coaches out here and they're like, oh, if you do everything that's in my book or everything that's in my program, you'll be successful. Well, they're like, I did this and I'm successful. Well, this person may have orange energy. So of course what they did made them successful. But if you have green energy, their stuff may not work for you because you function differently than them. You can't operate the same way as someone else, right? And so this is why we get a lot of people who like follow these self-help gurus and they're like, well, I tried this and it didn't work for me. Well, their energy patterns are the same. You can't do things the same. I have yellow energy, right? And so I know I can't share information with people unless I've been invited to share, unless they ask me to share. Because if I go up to someone and I'm like, I know how to fix your problem, here's the answer, they'll get mad at me. Because my energy is so big and so intense that it feels like basically they've just been like slammed into the sun and baked and have a sunburn, right? So that's going to be something. So becoming a heart-centered person is a lot of self-discovery. And you know, about 7 or 8 years ago, I was at the point where it's like, I didn't know who I was or what I was supposed to do. And, you know, after walking this path, I feel much more confident, but I feel like it's this continual learning journey that we're constantly learning and shifting. And so be okay with learning and shifting. So as I mentioned, if you go to my TikTok, there is, under Aura Colors, go down there, and there's a video on how to understand your own aura color and to figure out what your color is. And it's really pretty easy, really simple. A lot of people talk about just taking your hand and holding it over a piece of paper and looking. And you can do that. In fact, I can look at mine right now, and I don't know if you guys can see it. You probably can. I can see it. Mine is actually radiating pink right now, which I'm in another spiritual awakening right now, which, dude, I thought like it was a one and done thing with spiritual awakenings. No, it's not. It is not. You can have multiple spiritual awakenings. It's a process. So, but a lot of people say that you can do it this way, where you hold your hand over and you can see the colors. I mean, I can see mine. I can see the pink. I can see the yellow. I can see a little bit of green. But I found when somebody taught me that technique when I was first starting, I couldn't do it that way. So the video that I have on my TikTok on how to find your own aura colors is a lot simpler. So I would say just go watch that video. But you can also try that method too, of like holding your hand over a paper, and then you look at the shadow kind of in the energy around, and you can see those colors. So those are the two ways we're going to do that. And that's going to help us with soul purpose more. And then of course, you know, like I said, we're going to work on intuition development. If you want to learn more about this, I have like 25, 30 free videos on my website or on my YouTube that you can watch and start to learn and start to grow. And so that's going to be a really awesome, beautiful thing. But when we go back to the original topic of becoming this heart-centered human who operates in our soul purpose, the best way to do that is just to fully express and be yourself. Be yourself unapologetically without anyone telling you who you are and telling you what you should be. And allow yourself to just be yourself. So that is the end of the class today. I hope that everybody has a wonderful and beautiful Sunday. And we will have more classes up and coming. we do have, let's see, I will be in Scottsdale April 20th talking about tattoo language, the spiritual meaning of tattoos. And then May 25th, I will be in Portland, Oregon, doing another one of these heart-centered things. But we are really it's going to be an all-day thing. We're going to hang out. We're going to learn all day at an awesome little yoga studio. So you guys get to hang out with me all day. And that class is, I believe, really affordable. And so I invite you to join me with that and grab your tickets before that fills up. But yeah, thank you everybody for being a part of class today. I'm going to end the YouTube stream and then I'll stay a little bit on TikTok just to answer some general questions. All right. And those of you that were on YouTube, I apologize for the glitches. I did everything I could possibly humanly think to make sure that that was going to function properly, and it still did not. And that's, I always try these new platforms. Sorry, I'm going to I have to put my computer on an ice block because it's like starting to get too hot. And then I'm like, we just got to go back to the old standbys of using TikTok and Zoom. So someone was Mercury retrograde, like what the fuck, right? Yeah, I think that's why people dropped out. I was like, I know. I was glitching too, and I was like, no, don't glitch. So I had a question. Did I say I am not doing health readings anymore? So I have one more client. After that client, I am indefinitely closing to private readings. So what that means is that you will no longer be able to go to my website and book a private session with me. I've had, and we were talking about this yesterday, I have had way too many problems with people not showing to their calls, or they were, coming to their calls and then filing a chargeback and, saying they never received their calls when they did. And I'm like, I have proof that you did, which was like damaging to my bank accounts because then it was overdrawing my bank accounts. And I just got to the point where I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't. Like, it's damaging my bank accounts because with a commercial bank account, it's like, trying to describe this. Like, every time you get a chargeback, it negatively affects your account. And if you have a certain number of chargebacks in a certain period of time, they can shut your account down. And like, I've had my accounts now since 2006. I have been an entrepreneur and not doing what I'm doing now, but other things since 2006. I've never had so many problems that I had in the past year. And I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm broke. What can I file a chargeback on? And, I just happen to be an easy target. I even had a lady who was like, oh my God, like she paid for a program and she's like, I'm really broke. Can you refund me? And I was like, sure, no problem. You've been a long time customer. I will refund you. I've processed a refund. 3 days later, she filed a chargeback on it too. I'm like, I am not paying you twice, lady. And, I got mad at her. I was like, look, you've been around a while. My terms and agreements state there's a $75 fee. If you do that, because I get charged fees too, but also I permanently ban people. You cannot be in my website if you're going to file chargebacks. I am a very easy person to work with. If you don't have money and you need a refund, 9 times out of 10, I will give you a freaking refund, right? But, and thank you, Samantha. Samantha's like, you helped my son for free. And yeah, like last year I did over $400,000 worth of free readings. I did more free readings than I did paid readings, right? And I love helping people, but I also have to protect myself. And so anyways, long story short, I am not going to be doing private readings anymore because that's just fucked up. So at this point, the only way you can get any sort of reading with me is when I go live here on TikTok or when I do my Free Friday healing calls or things like that, where I am in complete control of it. And where I say who's going to have a reading and who doesn't, So, yeah, and you're right, Summer. And my purpose is changing, Samantha. It is a little bit. I'm moving more towards in-person public speaking, writing books. And, I've also set the protection, that no one that will harm my energy can book a call with me. Right? Or who can have a call with me. And it's really interesting. Like, I had a lady who, like, I don't even allow reschedules, but I let her reschedule like 3 different times. And I was like, wow, so universe is really blocking us from calls. And then like the 4th time she didn't show, it was like, we're not doing this anymore. But yeah, like I have people all the time that like, not all the time, but I think I've had about a dozen people over the past 5 years who like, they won't show up to their call on time, or, something will happen. I'm like, yeah, Spirit's just protecting me from you, dude. So thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. So yeah, but like yesterday, I got on live yesterday morning and I offered, quick, like 5-10 minute readings for $20. And, right now, like a 45 minute session with me is $500. So you can see that like, that was like a really great deal for people. And that's, that's the way I'm going to do things now. I'm like, yeah, you can just Venmo me and then I'll do a reading for you, because Venmo doesn't let people do chargebacks. But yeah, that's the only way we're going to do readings from now on, at least indefinitely for now, is and everything changes. I'm always open to changing. I never say never, but for right now, that's what I'm doing, because it's like every time like I get a chargeback, I freaking cry. Like my bank account was negative the other day because someone charged back and got a double chargeback because I had already refunded them, And it's just like, I'm sorry. I know people are having financial issues. I know the economy sucks, but please don't make my life worse too because of it, So yeah, that's the only way you're going to be able to get readings. And I will just, whenever I have time, go live and do things. And I'll do them that way. And we'll see how that works. And if it doesn't work that way, then you'll have to come meet me in a live event. Like we just did a live event in March where we had like 8 women show up. It was really small but wonderful. And I gave each of them a private reading in an in-person setting. And it was so powerful and so beautiful. I can't even describe to you how wonderful it was. And we were just hugging each other at the end. And I loved that. I loved the energy of that. And so, that's also options as well. So yeah, that's what it is. But I have uploaded tons of videos on my website for you guys. You can go check out my YouTube. Probably going to start my podcast back up again. But that's kind of where things are going. I appreciate everyone's love and support. And, I love to help people. But there's just going to be a lot of boundaries around it from now on. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm going to run because I got a bunch of other things that are going on today. I appreciate everyone that was here. Thank you for liking, sharing, giving me hearts. Thank you for liking and sharing my comments and content. You guys are awesome. So yeah, make sure that you guys are signed up on the website so you can see the next upcoming events. If you're in or near Portland, Oregon, make sure you're grabbing your ticket now. We haven't announced, I'm actually flying to Portland on the 29th to sign the contracts for the event space. So we haven't announced the exact location yet, but once that location's announced, I suspect those tickets will sell out. So if you're in the Portland area over in the Pacific Northwest and you want to come meet me in person, that's coming up May 25th. And I would highly recommend coming because it's going to be like 5 hours of spiritual awesomeness. And we get to hang out in person and it's going to be awesome. We're going to do meditations and healings and readings and heart-centered soul purposeness. And it's going to be so cool. And we'll have snacks. I'll bring snacks because Curvy Girl likes her snacks. So, okay, guys, have a beautiful day. Thank you, everybody. Bye.